Frontrunners in yesterday's primary election in Montana made strong showings. Coming up, results from our mail-only ballot.
And we'll also hear what some of the major candidates have to say after winning a chance to progress to the November runoff.
It is 6:31 on this post-election Wednesday. Chet Lehman, Caitlin Corbett, Matt Elwell with you here. In other numbers, not a bad morning out there.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's
temperatures are solidly in the upper 40s to low 50s for most of the area. Cooler temperature. Any guesses?
West Yellowstone.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
You got it. 37 degrees there. Yeah, it wasn't
That's a
really
different kind of
trick
37
question
down there too.
That's
Trust
right.
me, I know. Yeah.
A little bit of cloud cover out across the area. We had some showers last night in the mountain regions of southwest Montana. I think much the same today. Afternoon thunder showers from Big Sky back toward west. We could see a couple of those try to spill over into the southern part of Gallatin Valley, but generally it's very isolated potential. Daytime highs into the 70s today. A little more wind as well. We're going to break that down, take a look at a river levels and much more. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Now here's a look at some of the top races in yesterday's primary election. The race for U.S. House of Representatives on the Republican side was crowded. 6 people in that race.
There you see the top 3. Matt Rosendale, Montana State Auditor, has run for Senate and Congress before, comes out on top with 48% of the vote. Corey Stapleton, current Secretary of State and former state senator, was in third. Deborah Lamb, John Ivankovich, Joe Dooling, Mark McGinley, the rest of that field. At the end of the evening, Matt Rosendale said he was gratified to win the race, promised to focus on economic issues in the general election.
We are facing right now tremendous challenges in this downturn in the economy. And we've had a lot of our businesses that have suffered, whether we're talking about Main Street or our farmers and ranchers. And my extensive business background just positions me perfectly to make sure that I can work with others to revive our economy and make sure that we can help these folks out.
And for the U.S. House of Representatives on the Democratic side, Kathleen Williams, a former state representative, ran against Tom Winters, another state representative. She was the runaway favorite in that race, winning by far with 89% of the vote. And after being declared the winner, Williams told MTN News.
I just want to thank all the Montanans that came out to support and that have worked tirelessly on this campaign and the last one. It's an honor to have that level of support and to know that Montanans really want to return true independent representation to Montana's lone U.S. House seat. So it's an incredible honor.
So it will be Rosendale versus Williams for the congressional seat. For the race for governor, the Republican slate had some familiar names on it. Montana's lone congressman, Greg Gianforte, the winner there with 53% of the vote over Tim Fox, current attorney general, and current senator and Dr. Al Olszewski. Now, our Gabby Kravitz caught up with Congressman Greg Gianforte near his home in Bozeman after the race was called last night.
Congressman, how does it feel to be at this point?
Well, I'm just overwhelmed by the support, broad-based support we've seen across the state. And I know there's a lot of people out there hurting right now. They may not have a paycheck, they've lost their job, and they're concerned about their health. We need to get to work and get our economy going again. And as your next governor, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves on day one and do exactly that.
Right, and so now we're transitioning from the primary to the general election. So what will that pivoting look like for the campaign?
Well, from the very beginning, we've been telling a very positive, hopeful message about the potential of Montana. That's not going to change. People are resonating with the fact that they want proven business experience in the governor's office so we can create more good paying jobs so our young people don't have to keep leaving the state and Montanans can prosper. That's why I'm running, and I look forward to applying my skills in the governor's office.
And we're learning now that you will have a new opponent for the general election. Will your message change at all moving forward, moving into November?
Yeah, my proposition to Montana is very simple. I'm a business guy. I've spent my life solving problems and creating good paying jobs here in Montana. That's the message we started with, and that's the one we're going to finish with.
Right. And this primary election has really been like no other with the COVID-19 pandemic. How has that affected your campaign, and how do you see it affecting the future of your campaign?
Well, we've had a spirited campaign, and I just want to thank both Al and Tim. They're friends of mine. They ran spirited campaigns. I'm looking forward to coming together now that the primary is over and working together to get Republicans elected here in the fall.
Thank you, Congressman. Again, Kevin Donna here with Congressman Gianforte, who has just won the Republican governor's race. Thank you again, Congressman. Appreciate it.
And Montana Attorney General Tim Fox was considered a strong contender in the race for the Republican nomination for governor, but couldn't keep up with Gianforte's name recognition and campaign spending. At the end of the night, he said,
"This is different in many different ways than any campaign I've run before, not the least of which because of the COVID-19 virus. But ultimately, I think campaigning in Montana comes down to being someone that's genuine and that Montanans can relate to, and someone who has a track record, obviously, of having gotten successes in working with others through the years, which certainly John and I have been able to do both in our public and private lives.
Now, the governor's race featured some familiar names on the Democratic side as well. Current Lieutenant Governor Mike Cooney comes out the winner on that one in a closer race than it first appeared against Whitney Williams. Whitney Williams is the daughter of former Congressman Pat Williams. After the win, Cooney talked about how the COVID-19 pandemic made his race a little different.
We started using more social media and Zoom and trying to continue to have contact with the people of Montana. And it was challenging. And it's not the way that we'd wanted it to be, because in Montana, people talking to people, us going around the state listening to what people have to say is very important.
Mike and I had differences in this campaign, but that campaign is over. Those differences are over. Starting today, Mike and I are united with the majority of Montanans who are looking for an experienced leader in our next governor. Someone who will bring us out of this crisis stronger than before. A steady hand to guide us above the pitfalls and petty politics.
And on the Republican side for Montana's U.S. Senate seat, the candidates were Daniel Larson, John Driscoll, and incumbent Steve Daines. As you would expect here, Daines was an easy winner, 88% of the vote in that race. He says his focus will be on the economy.
I think the key issues in November will be jobs, the economy, pocketbook issues for Montanans. About helping our small businesses, getting Montanans back to work. It's about less regulations. It'll be about more freedom. The issue of the Second Amendment. I got an A+ rating from the NRA. My opponent had called for a semi-automatic firearms ban. I'm an avid supporter of our public lands. I spend a lot of time outside on our public lands. Immigration and border security, I think, will also be an important issue. I've stood strong with the president in securing our southern border. My opponent supported sanctuary cities. I think these are going to be very stark contrasts.
Now, on the other side of that race, the Democratic primary, another landslide win there. Candidates John Muse, Mike Knowles, and Governor Steve Bullock. Bullock winning that one easily with 95% of the votes. Now, he did not speak with MTN last night, but Governor Bullock did issue a statement, and it said, quote, "Thank you, Montana, for making me your Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate. During my time in office, I have worked to represent the interest of everyday Montanans and put politics aside to do what's right. As governor, I brought Republicans and Democrats together to expand health care to 90,000 Montanans, kick dark money out of the state's elections, make significant investments in our schools, cut taxes for small businesses in the state, balance our state budget, and create Montana's first ever rainy day fund," end quote.
And heading to Silver County now, there are 5 candidates for Butte's chief executive position: incumbent Dave Palmer, Tom Cronelly, Ted Deschner, J.P. Gallagher, and Brendan McDonough. And it looks like J.P. Gallagher took that one with 36% of the vote, followed by Dave Palmer with 25%.
Some local levy elections. Butte Silverbow Economic Development levy passes easily with 63% of the vote for that one.
And in Gallatin County, the search and rescue levy was approved by voters. 63% of you voted yes for that one. The Gallatin County 911 levy also passed, not quite as easily. That one was a little bit closer, with just 54% of you voting for it.
Now, you can see the numbers for all those local races right now by heading on over to our websites. So good, busy night. We have our candidates lined up for the general election, and that's coming up the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November.
And a record turnout for a primary with an all-mail ballot. Pretty
Absolutely
interesting
true.
there,
So
too.
interesting times through Montana's first ever all mail-in ballot
Yes,
election
first
as well.
ever.
So interesting stuff. 6:40 now. We're going to take a quick break here on Montana This Morning. Up next, looking to the past for historical context today. How past protests are telling us about our future. But first, here's a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we're going to have the latest on the protests overnight against racial injustice and an update to our year-long investigation on policing in America. We'll tell you how law enforcement officials say more needs to be done despite changes to the way officers are trained. Plus, only on CBS This Morning, Bishop T.D. Jakes joins us with his thoughts on how to begin repairing our national wounds. And on the subject of national wounds, we're going to discuss how parents can talk to their kids about racism in America and raise an anti-racist child. That's a thing. We'll see you at 7.